Hello, hello. We're testing the audio here. Just gonna make sure that's going good. It's gonna be a little bit of an echo for a second. Hello, we're testing the audio here. All right. So that's working. Hello and welcome all those that are watching. If there's anybody out there, can you confirm that you guys are getting audio? I will open this up as a open chat. I won't be on for long. The wife and son are at Walmart, so while she is away, I shall play. So, what's up with the title of this video? Why am I apologizing to Regolith? Well, it's because yesterday I recorded a video on my first takes with Regolith, and I was having some trouble connecting to my Wi-Fi, and it wasn't connecting to the Xfinity, the guest network, if you will, either. And I had just had Endeavor on the same machine, and it was working just fine. So naturally, my first assumption was, okay, Regolith is having issues with the Wi-Fi, and I kind of gave it a hard time about it. And later on last night, I attempted the same thing with Manjaro i3 on the machine, and completely different distribution. It uses the network manager applet and gave me the same exact issue. Alternate distribution. So there's my first clue. It wasn't an issue with Regolith. It was something wrong with either my machine or with the network or something. So I did a little digging to see what exactly is going on, and I'm still a little confused on the issue. But I plugged in an external Raylink network card to it. This one worked just fine with Regolith and Manjaro, and I even loaded up the Endeavor Live ISO because it was the last distro on it that worked flawlessly. So I wanted to see if it would do the same thing with Endeavor. And lo and behold, it did the exact same thing. Now, when I checked the logs, the dmessage logs, it gave me an error of, let me see if I can, I'm just gonna open up a terminal here, and I'm just gonna maybe resize this a bit so people can see. A good way to matter of fact, I'll just full screen it. I'll get myself out of the way here. Okay, it's Jitsi that was in the way. Okay. So I am not an expert at OBS at all, as you could probably tell. Don't let this look fool you. I'm no productionist or anything like that. But anyway, a good way to look up issues that might be going on is to do something called dmessage, and it'll show you like the logs from, I believe this is everything that's going on in your system. And on my other system, if I type in IPA, it'll give me my list of interfaces. So if I were to type in dmessage and use grep to pull lines with the interface, it comes up here, and you'll see this. It says send. Hey, had a brain fart there. Forgot your real name. Yeah, I'm talking Chicago. I'm talking a little bit about my experience with Regolith and what really happened. CJ, right. Yes. Yeah. Last night on Regolith, I had noticed I'm having a recent issue with my network card on my other machine, not on the ThinkPad. ThinkPad's working just fine. My test machine is acting wonky, and so I ran dmessage to get it is an open chat. I shared the link in the chat. I won't be on long. I'm just quickly apologizing to the Regolith team because as it turned out, it wasn't an issue with Regolith. It was an issue. It's a combination of between the internal network card of this particular laptop and my Comcast router. So as you can tell here, this little message here, it says send authentication to FC51, the MAC address, try 1 out of 3, and it was authenticated. I'm going to SSH into my other laptop so I could show you. It would help if I could type. And the reason I'm doing this is because some of you guys might be hitting the same issue here with older wireless cards. And you're gonna see, gotta find the, as you can tell here, my interfaces, I got 1, 2, 3, and 5. 3 is my internal. The internal, this is, I'm remoting, this is a remote. I've remoted into my other laptop in this terminal here. So this one is my local machine, this one I've remoted in. So well, it turns out that this particular issue wasn't a problem with Regolith. It was an issue with my wireless card. Or it continues to be an issue with my wireless card, because I later on last night I installed Manjaro i3 and got the same exact issue with Manjaro i3, and so I had to concede, okay, it's not Regolith that's doing this. And I even tried it with Endeavor, which was the last distribution that was on that particular machine that was working just fine, and all of a sudden it's not working. I have a couple theories. One being that perhaps my Comcast router received a recent update that screwed things up. I'll get into what I found so far. What I found is that and what this is going to do, this is going to tell me to S0 frequencies. Now, as you can tell on my secondary laptop, the frequencies that it can travel, these are the bands. So you notice some routers, they'll say, like, do you want to join the 2.4 gigahertz? Do you want to join the 5 gigahertz? I'm thinking that's like that's a different frequencies on your router. As you can tell, this wireless card can only do 2.4. However, if I run the same command on my current ThinkPad here, it gives me a lot more, and I can go all the way from 2.4 all the way up to 5.7. From what I can tell, what was happening is my other machine can only do 2.4. The internal can only do 2.4, and if I go into the Comcast router firmware, it tells me, or it has both frequencies as the same name, home, which is my router, my network's name is. They're both home. Now, both frequencies have a different have like a different MAC address, and so let's say I run dmessage on my Manjaro machine. Oh, it's not 5G, not the network, not the mobile network. It's 5 gigahertz on your router. I believe it's a frequency. I believe it's a different frequency. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what it is. Well, let's say that I run. Well, what I find is a very different result on this machine. Yeah, welcome Gnostic. Yeah. See how it says send authentication to FC1.24? Well, this one, it sent it to 2.5. Same exact MAC address, I believe, except that last number, 4.5. Well, the 2.4 is the 2.4 gigahertz network, and the 2.5 is the 5 gigahertz, the 5.7 or whatever. And so what I looked up was that because they're both the same name, it's causing some issues, because the card is always going to be looking for the higher frequency. And because of the same name, and because that card can't go above 2.4, that's causing some issues. So I apologize to Regolith. It was nothing you did. It was me, not you, or my hardware. I'm trying to find a solution to this. There's no easy solution. One I've thought of doing is to rename the frequency, rename the two networks, the two frequencies, and rename the one that's 2 as like home 2.4 whatever, and rename the 5 home 5.0. But here's the issue with that. That might work here. Okay, that might work here at my home network, and I can get my machine on the network, and it's just fine. However, if I'm in a public place and I want to jump on the public Wi-Fi, well, I can't very well jump on their router's firmware and change things. I mean, if I spent enough time on it, I mean, with Kali Linux, maybe, right? But I'm not that good, okay? I'm not a hacker, I'm not a programmer at all, so that's out of the question. And so I'm trying to come up with a solution that would work like universally. Um, because while I do have my main machine is this ThinkPad that does do 5.7 gigahertz, there are going to be a lot of people out there that don't have that. Their network card is very basic, and they're not going to do that. And so I'm trying to find a quick solution to that. Yeah, I like Kali. Kali's fun to play with. It's scary though. Oh my gosh, it's scary the stuff that's on there. Especially that social engineering kit, the SET, social engineering toolkit. Oh my god, that is terrifying. Clone the Facebook login page right on your computer and send someone the link, and boom. You find their passwords, and you'd be surprised how many people fall for that crap. I've been having issues with Metasploit and Armitage, and I think at their core is their Java issues, but I'm not sure. Those are the only programs I run into issues with on Arch is pen testing tools that are always broken anyway. And I tried it on Kali and I got the same issues, so Black Arch is fun though. Black Arch, the Arch-based pen testing tool. I've been playing with this thing called Shodan. It's like a search engine, but instead of looking for strings on internet or whatever Google does, it searches for devices that are on the internet with ports open, and you'd be surprised with the things that people put online. Messing with Shodan, I found somebody put their router's interface settings internet facing. And I was shocked. I think it was somewhere in Germany. And I just copied the IP address into my browser, and boom, router settings right there. I was like, are you nuts? Are you crazy? I could have broken your life with this. It's like, oh, that's why we do this. Yeah, that's why I didn't go any further. I just checked out what it was and just got the heck out of there. I didn't try to mess anything up or anything like that. But I'm no expert at hacking or anything like that. I just play around with that stuff just to see. Let's just see what's out there. I mean, if you are, good at that kind of stuff, I mean, go for it. I mean, security testers make a ton of money. So, like, yeah, if that's something you can do, man, I would say go for it. Yeah. Yeah, honeypots are the reason why I didn't push it any further with that one. Just because you never know, could be someone looking for trouble. Don't need any FBI raids in my house. I don't have enough of an arsenal to defend myself against that, so be careful. But anyway, more to the point, I am looking for solutions to this. So little dilemma here, this little issue with I'm not gonna log into. Matter of fact, I could do it. The only issue is I can't let it capture my Chrome, my web browser, just yet, because Comcast is freaking idiots. The second that I log into my router's firmware, on the home page shows the passphrase to get into my machine. I don't get why they do this. I don't understand why. What is going on through their head? That is a major security flaw. What if I'm logging into this thing and someone's looking over my shoulder? That's something that really should be hidden from view until I specifically say to reveal it. To an extent, they do. I haven't found a way to disable it. It's when you first log into your Xfinity router and it says Gateway at a glance. And then under Wi-Fi configuration it says the Wi-Fi SSID, and then it says Wi-Fi passkey. And from the second that you log in until I click on another page, it just automatically shows. Just like right there, just like, ooh, I'm just like, I just do not like Comcast. But, I mean, who does? So, let me get this going here. So, hopefully everyone can see that I switched it to another page. It doesn't have my passkey. Yay! Anyway, as you can tell here, it says frequency band, and one of the things is 2.4 gigahertz, and it gives the MAC address here, and it says 5 gigahertz and gives the MAC address here, and they're both the same name. But I'm guessing that that's what's confusing my other machine. Oh man, yeah, that's no good. The problem, in my opinion, is a lack of competition. Right, like Comcast can screw me over and get away with it scot-free. Because in a normal capitalist society, I would just go to a different company, and it would be money out of their pockets, and they would eventually crumble, and but their competition would hold the fire to their feet, and both of them would probably be a lot better than just the one Comcast. But I mean, that's what we get. It's Comrade Comcast. We And so what I'm thinking about doing here is changing the name of one of these, so it'll be two separate networks. And wonder what'll happen if I hit edit for that one. So looks like I can't disable it, then that machine won't even be able to join. Anyway, but that would only solve the problem for here though. Right, like if I change the name, then just join the 2 gigahertz. That won't solve the problem if I take this machine to, let's say, McDonald's and try to hop on their Wi-Fi. That won't solve the problem there, because I can't get on their router settings and do things like this. But yeah, that's as far as I've gotten, and like mainly I came on here to apologize to Regolith for giving them crap about that Wi-Fi issue. The only thing I'm confused about is why this literally just became an issue overnight. I checked the logs on the router here, and there's no, I didn't see any like obvious like, okay, this updated yesterday or this updated then or whatever. There's nothing that I've seen. And maybe the solution is to get my own router, something that can there's not enough coffee in the world for Comcast, or to deal with Comcast. Yeah, like I don't know if anybody else has dealt with this issue. Yeah, Comcast does, I think. Yeah, we're only renting the router. It might actually be cheaper for me to find another one. That it might be a little more expensive at first, but I'm thinking that if it's like a whole like pay all at once deal, it might actually end up saving money in the long run. And if it might be a lot more powerful than this thing too. Like, I mean, who knows? I'll have to look into it. Just because I used to mess around with like, you know, router firmware, and it seems like Comcast just like does not give a lot of the same like control over the router that others that I've played around with did. Like what the heck was that? Like like a Cisco router or even a Netgear would give me more control than this thing is. The one Belkin that I tried was complete trash. I took it back. This was 10 years ago, so. Yeah. My whole thing too is I want to be able to have my machines talk to each other. So like let's say I record a video on my other laptop over here, looking into distro X for the Biddle challenge. Well, I want to be able to SSH into this machine, take the video, copy it to this machine, and then upload it to YouTube from this one. If they're on two separate networks, well, that might give me a problem, because it looks like these are two different networks with the same name. And I think what my main machine here is doing is it's looking for the highest frequency, the 5, and it's going for that, and it's automatically connecting to the 5. The other one seems to be trying to connect to the 2, and then trying to hit the 5 and then just not, then just crapping out because I don't know, it's all so confusing, but it's all learning as I go here. I wonder if another router would be a lot clearer in like telling me what's going on. Yeah, so that's what really happened with Regolith. There was an issue with my wireless card with the frequency bands, and not an issue with Regolith. The current workaround that I've employed for this machine is I've plugged in an external Raylink network card, and this gets it onto the 5.7 gigahertz band, whatever. And so for now it works. Wish I didn't need to do that though. Wish the internal one would work just fine. Yeah. From what I've looked into, yeah, and I think it was Tom from Switch to Linux that did videos on this. That he's got his own router and he's got his own firmware on it and whatnot. I don't know if I put my own firmware on it, but I do know to look up to make sure that it's compatible with Comcast and to make sure that it'll work with my ISP. So make sure to look on the label. If it says Crapcast, you're good. You're good to go. I might get some faster internet speeds with another router too. I am looking into that as well. My biggest fear in all this is to discover that 2.4 gigahertz is going obsolete. That's my biggest fear, and I'm not saying that it is. I don't know. Right? That's my fear, is to do some research into this and to find it out. Right? Because all things considered, this machine over here is pretty decent. Right? It's got it's pretty generic, but it's decent. Right? It's got a quad-core CPU in it. It's got 8 gigs of RAM. If the wireless card makes it obsolete, I'm gonna be pretty ticked off at that. It's a Realtek, and I don't know. It might be that they're trying to phase out this 2.4 gigahertz. No idea. And I did look up the specs of that particular wireless card online, just to make sure that that it's not supposed to be doing 5.5 gigahertz. Because that was a thought that crossed my mind too. Was what if like it did do 5 gigahertz and all of a sudden that part of the network card just crapped out? And so I looked it up online as well to see what like the specs were supposed to be, if that makes any sense. And it turns out it is just 2.4. So means the hardware is working just fine. It's just not agreeing with my router at this time. And so I mean, I don't know what the difference is. I think maybe one's faster than the other. I don't know. Um but anyway, I did find a solution, which is the external wireless card. So I'm not going to stop doing distro tests on that machine. Um, However, I just thought that I'd bring that up just because some people out there might be dealing with the same issue here. And this is what the floss philosophy is all about, right? Just sharing our experiences and our issues with things and what we find. So this is what I found. Yeah, back like 10 years ago, I went to a local trade school called Porter and Chester here in Chicopee, and I did get my my Network Plus certification was one of them. It has since expired. I haven't been in it for a while, so pardon if I forget a few things, but I believe gigahertz is a frequency, not is it a frequency or is it a speed? That I don't remember, but whether one's better than the other, I don't know. If I look down here, if I go to connected devices, I should be able to see if there's anything that like absolutely requires 2 gigahertz. A couple of iPhones maybe. A Kindle. There are a few things that need the 2.4 gigahertz. Bunch of things on Ethernet here. So there's my phone here connected. Even my phone is 5.7 gigahertz. It's like I would have been tempted just to like Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a frequency. I didn't like Yeah, it must be a frequency because if it was like a speed, it would say like gigabits per second, or like it would actually give like a unit of time behind it. And it doesn't seem like gigahertz has that. So, um, I'm not sure if it's the same frequency as what you would find on like a 5G, you know, mobile network. Um, like a low-level microwave. Oh, so it's dangerous to our health then. Huh. Should I be killing my router with fire right now? Should I be kissing any chance at having other... Well, because see, here, this laptop here does do 5 gigahertz from what I've been able to tell. I did do a little research to find out, how to find these things out, specifically on like a Linux machine. And I did find that this machine's internal wireless card, the one in my ThinkPad, the one I'm using now, has a wider range of frequencies that it can attach itself to, and is currently on the 5.7 gigahertz, because I guess it automatically hits the highest one it can get. My other machine over here, the internal one, can only go up to like 2.4 something. Go up here, 2.462 gigahertz. So I guess my fear would be, if it's a danger to our health, should I be refraining from putting this laptop on my lap? Or, kiss any chance at having future offspring goodbye? I mean, it's one of those things you worry about. Yeah, from what I can tell from what Tom was saying, it's pretty terrifying. I guess it's somehow from what he said, I guess it somehow messes with the ability to predict the weather. It messes with those what is it, the Doppler radar or something? I guess it messes, like the radiation from it messes with that. But I don't know like the internal, like all the internal details of it, but that's what I've been able to tell so far. It's a tough question for me, right? Because if we don't use it, other countries will, and they'll get the drop on us. And so but at the same token, it's like, well, we don't want to, kill ourselves in the process. Do we want to? I mean, I don't pretend to have, all the answers. Oh, looks like I lost my connection with my machine. It fell asleep. I guess that's what it went down. But yeah, I mean, in the process of troubleshooting this thing, I learned a lot of Linux commands to find out more information. So that's a silver lining. Whenever something like this happens, I always do some research into, like, okay, how do I find this out? How do I find out what's going on here? And I always end up learning a lot more than I did before from it. So that's always a silver lining when I hit these kinds of issues. And so, I mean, yeah, there's that. And like this ThinkPad, I don't know. It never ceases to amaze me how it was manufactured in 2012. This ThinkPad, and like how the people who built this thing thought ahead is amazing. A Faraday cage with 5G. Hang on, let me look up what a Faraday cage is here. Uh-oh. Maybe I don't want to know. Okay, a Faraday cage or Faraday shield is an enclosure used to block electromagnetic fields. A Faraday shield may be formed by continuous covering conductive material, or in this case a Faraday cage is by a mess of such materials. Oh. Yeah, so the 5G can breach this thing. Yeah, it is kind of terrifying. Anyway, I've been messing with this here called Shodan. And I did create an account with it. Some of their features does require to pay a little bit. Like their radar, I've been doing a little playing around. Nothing illegal or anything like that. Right? Like I'm not looking to do any damage to anybody or anything with these kinds of things. I just like to play around with it, just to see what it can do. And if an IP address is doing something wonky, like a buddy of mine came up to me and says like, okay, someone tried to log into my Facebook from this IP address. So, okay, look up the IP address, find out who owns it, do a little homework here, find out what's going on with it, and oh. Hmm. From what I understand, if Neil deGrasse Tyson was correct, he was on it's on the when I saw him on Joe Rogan. I think it was him who was talking about like an actual microwave and what it does, and he was saying that what it does is it accelerates the water molecules in whatever it's coming into contact with, and that's how it heats things up. It just accelerates the water molecules. That's why if you put a piece of burnt toast in there, it'll come out like it's not hot at all because there's no water molecules in it to accelerate. And so I guess like the more accurate term would be not slow roasted humans, but slow boiled humans, or slowly steamed, or what have you. I don't know. Be a bunch of giant White Castle burgers, because they do steam them. I think at their in their actual places they do steam the burgers. Like I can never cook those things right. They always come out either burnt to a crisp or not cooked enough. And it's because I have no way of actually steaming them the way they do it at their actual restaurants. So I don't know. It's on my bucket list to go to a White Castle. There's none in my area. Closest one I think is in New Jersey somewhere, and I'm in Mass, so like that's a bit of a trip for me. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so I got like way off track here, but yeah, that's the issue that I ran into with Regolith, and I don't know. I guess I guess I don't know. Just be on the lookout for this issue here that came up. Just be aware that it is out there. If someone has a network card that can only do 2.4 gigahertz, you might run into some slight issues here. So yeah, I'm gonna probably end this soon, just because like that was my main thing, was to apologize to the team over at Regolith that in my video when I was going through it, I was kind of harsh on them, because I honestly thought it was an issue with Regolith, and I was kind of harsh on it, like this is an issue when I do have other issues with Regolith, but they're not, Wi-Fi related anymore. Like I don't like how like GNOME is kind of bleeding into it, and like how all these GNOME things are overlapping. But that's just an aesthetic thing for me with it. Like I don't like the way GNOME 3. No, that's okay, Gnostic. Yeah, I go down a lot of rabbit holes myself. But no, like as far as Regolith goes, I do apologize for that misunderstanding there. And all kidding aside, if the Wi-Fi thing worked, which it does, it does. It's not an issue with Regolith. It was an issue with my card. I would say, yeah, it's a pretty decent experience for somebody wanting to get into i3 fresh. Someone who has no experience with it and they just want to learn the workflow and whatever. I think it might be a decent option for them. My issues with it, like as you could tell here, by the way, I use i3 on my Arch system. And as you could tell, one of the things I like to do is to get rid of the border. GTK3 apps on any other desktop environment except GNOME look like they don't belong. Okay, and that's not to say that I don't use GTK3 apps. Right, sometimes you just gotta use what works. Like Lutris for an example. I use that on my i3 system. Can't get rid of the border on GTK3 apps, even on i3, even whatever. It's just gonna do its own thing, and there's no way to kill it. At least as far as what I can tell, there's no way to get rid of it. But that to me is an aesthetic thing. Like, it doesn't look like it belongs on my system. It looks foreign to my system. That being said, I think if someone wants to get used to like the tiling behavior of i3, if someone wants to get used to that workflow, SMART means secret military armaments and residential technologies. That's interesting. So you think they're going to try to weaponize 5G against civilians? I suppose it's possible. I mean, yeah. So I guess I'll give a more informed opinion on Regolith here. It's like I think if you're trying to get used to like the workflow of i3, the tiling behavior, um, it's good. It's good, but so I'll give it that. I'll give it a good thumbs up for that. That it it does what it set out to do. Very, very good. And I think it's excellent for its targeted audience. Just like I thought Endeavor was great for its target audience. And so I mean that's my opinion on it. I think that if you want to get into like the real core of i3 and you don't want to go through the pain of a manual Arch install or whatever, give Manjaro i3, the community edition, a try. And I hear that Arco's doing something similar. Salient and Mint. Salient's a good option. I like Mint too. My only issue with Mint is some of the things that I use. And this is purely, it might be a bit of a childish reason, but the reason I don't use Mint is because some of the things I use aren't very well kept up to date. Like, for example, GZ Doom, Doomsday Engine, small things like that. They're kind of fringe. Like, not a lot of people use those things, so I get why they don't pay a lot of attention to those apps. But I find the older versions of those things don't really work as well. And so, in order to get the more up-to-date version of those, I would have to go to GitHub, download it, compile it manually, and it'll be a pain in the butt to keep updated. It's just a lot easier to do things like that with an Arch-based distribution, such as like Manjaro or Salient or something like that, or vanilla Arch, if you will. And so, just little things like that. But like as far as stability goes, Mint is awesome. What I would say to Mint though, the Mint team is maybe put a few more eggs in your Debian edition basket. That's what I would say to the Mint team. And it's nothing against Ubuntu. I have my criticisms with Ubuntu, and a couple weeks ago it got a little heated when I was talking about. I think it was on another person's stream, on Steve's stream, and I was saying how I didn't like the response to the whole Snap issue, and what I was talking about, and this is not personally attacking anybody. What I was talking about was the tweet storm that came out of it. And that article, the Canonical website is owned by Canonical. And so, yeah, you are kind of responsible for the stuff that's up on your own website. And so, what I would liken it, it's akin to, let's say, I come to a town. I come to a brand new town for the first time. Okay, and I'm looking for a shopping mall. Or whatever. I'm looking for a shopping mall, just as an example. And I see all these street signs up. I say, shopping mall this way. Arrows pointing. Shopping mall is going here. shopping mall's here, and I follow the signs, and when I finally get to where the shopping mall is supposed to be, there's just this big empty field. Nothing. There's nothing there. And then the mayor shows up, the mayor of the town or whatever shows up and says, "Oh, you believe that sign? You should have asked me first. Anyone could put signs up in this town." It's like, that to me is kind of what happened with the whole Canonical, the whole Snap situation. It's like, yeah, maybe the information was false, but you can't really blame anybody for believing an article or something up on your own website. Sorry, you can't. And I did sense a bit of snootiness coming from the tweet storm and all that, and like it didn't make me want to gravitate towards their products, if that makes any sense. And it's not about hating Ubuntu. I got my start with Ubuntu. When I started with Linux 10 years ago, I ran 10.04. And if it wasn't for Ubuntu, I would never knock anybody for using Ubuntu. And if it wasn't for Ubuntu, I would have never gotten into Linux. Period. So this is not about. Wasn't about hating on Ubuntu or anything like that. And it was just that particular situation. I thought it was like a big mess, and I think there was a lot of mud flinging on both sides of the issue. But at the end of the day, the other example I would give is like, let's say Manjaro's response to the FreeOffice thing. It was like night and day, right? Like they actually listened to the community and said, okay, here, we're going to make a compromise. And it was not perfect, right? It's not perfect, right? Like people can say like, well, they need to change the description on the installer a little bit. Okay, I give you that. But they listened and they changed their approach, and that to me says it all. And like honestly, I love Manjaro. Manjaro is one of my favorite distributions. If my Arch system ever breaks, I will be putting Manjaro on this system because I'm too lazy to install it manually again. I love access to the AUR. I love the rolling release model. That kind of thing. But that's. I hope I clarified that. Because it got kind of heated, not with Steve, but with somebody in the chat who I'm not gonna name right now. And just so you know, like, it's no hard feelings, none. And I'll still look at Ubuntu, but to be honest, if I'm putting Linux on someone's machine, they're like brand new to it, I'll either pick, depending on their system, I'll either give them Manjaro, which I know a lot of people say don't do that, it's rolling release, it's going to break on them, but guess what? I've given 3 people Manjaro so far, and I've had no complaints. It's not difficult. You just give them the XFCE version, you put Chrome on the desktop, they're good to go. Just tell them, like, okay, here, update it at least once a week or so. Right? Right? People aren't idiots. They get it. And I've checked up on these machines, and they've been keeping up with it for, like, in this one case, at least a year. They've been keeping up with it, updating it. Now, the problem with Manjaro is it does have an issue with, like, purely BIOS machines. So, like, I do have a backup distro, and it's not my favorite. It's Linux Mint is my backup. The reason I say it's not my favorite is not because of any issues with this with Mint or anything like that, or the team or anything. It's just that I'm not as familiar with the app package manager as I am with Pacman, and so a distribution that's not based on Arch would be a little. It's a little like it's not as easy for me to like maintain something like that. So I mean that's just it. It's just a personal preference. Um, and that's why I go with Manjaro as my first option, because if I'm maintaining this system for someone, I have to be at least somewhat familiar with it, and I'm way more comfortable with the Pacman package manager, the Arch structure and stuff like that than I am with other distributions. That's just it for me. Um, and I think if your computer can handle a rolling release, that is a good way to go, because it'll keep everything up to date. Um, I won't get a call 5 years down the road. Hey, my system's broken. It's out of date. Blah 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 blah. You know, but that's just my personal opinion, and people can disagree with it. They can disagree with it vehemently, like some people who I consider my friends do. Um, some people value stability over updates, and like obviously there are some situations where Arch is not appropriate, like Arch Base, for example. The space station, the International Space Station, runs Debian, and honestly, I get it. Okay, I get it. You don't want a rolling release on the International Space Station. Okay, first of all, how many repositories, how many mirrors are in space? Okay, like I get it. You're not going to be updating like 2 or 3 times a day in space, and especially if we start becoming like we're getting into some sci-fi territory, but it might be in the near future. If you're going to be like away from repositories, you need to make something that works, and just make it work and send it off. And like if we ever become like a spacefaring species or something, and you guys send a spaceship to some planet to explore, well, there's no repositories up there. You need something that's going to work, keep working for maybe 40 years till it reaches its destination. That's where like I would say like those are extreme cases, but like if you take it to like the local level, like if you're going to have a machine that's not going to be online, then go static. You know, go static release. I've heard Linux machines that they're still running like Linux 1, and they haven't been rebooted in like since it was turned on like what 20 years ago. Now, granted, it was like just like an elevator terminal or something like that, but yeah, it's like different situations call for different things, and I think that's one of the things I look at when I look at different distributions. Is like, okay, what's the target audience of this distribution, and how well is it going to reach this target audience? Like, I try not to like say like, okay, blah, this doesn't work for me because it doesn't fit my workflow. Blah blah blah. Like, okay, no. How is it working for who they're targeting? That changes the grade a little bit sometimes. I heard that it got infected. Yeah. I didn't know how. I don't know if this was like a rumor or if it was real, but I heard that it was because they brought like adult material on the laptop that was infected. But no, that's a real issue too. Is that like I'm sure cost had something to do with why they switched. Um, Debian is like wicked stable, so like I get why they chose Debian. Oh, well. So it wasn't a Russian hack. It was an accident. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, again, I don't know how true it is, but I did hear is because one of the crew, um, the infection came from smut on his computer, like porn or something that he had on his laptop. I mean, I get it. It gets lonely up there, but still, there should be some decorum. There should be some um standards, if you will. I mean, you're in space, right? You don't want a virus infecting the machine that provides you your oxygen. Okay, that's just no. Okay, like it's not worth the risk at that point. But hey, that's just me. That's just my opinion. Some people like I'm one to talk. I run Arch, so yeah, some of us like to live on the edge. I get it, but in that particular case, I mean, if my Arch system breaks here, it's like okay. Hey, Ricky, how you doing? It is an open chat. I shared the link in the chat, but I don't know how long I'm gonna be on because um I'm only on until the wife comes home, and so who knows when that'll be. I went to Walmart. So I'll be right back. I'm just gonna go use the bathroom, but I'll be right back. You're welcome to join, Ricky, if you want. The link is in the chat, way at the top. Doing an open chat on Friday morning. Whoop. Hey, Ricky, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good.
That's good. I came on here initially to apologize to the Regolith team because there's a bit of a misunderstanding when I was testing the distro yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I thought that my Wi-Fi issue was an issue with Regolith, but it turned out to be uh, an issue between the frequency bands of that particular network card.
Uh-huh.
And so I came on here to apologize to them to clarify what exactly did happen,
Mm-hmm.
and to basically show how I found that out.
Okay, that's fine.
Because I feel like I owed it to them. Because I was kind of hard on that. I was like, wow, the Wi-Fi's not working. That's kind of a deal breaker for me. And I didn't say oh, this, not like Beavis this sucks, it sucks, not like that. But I was kind of hard on it. And because I just had Endeavor on it, and Endeavor was working just fine with my Wi-Fi. And so what's the first thing you're gonna think is, okay, there's an issue with this particular system here. But no, it turns out that the issue is between the 5 gigahertz and the 2.4 gigahertz, the frequencies on the router. It's confusing the daylights out of that particular network card.
Mm-hmm. Okay. My Gen 2 live stream is in 4 days. I'm hoping to hear from Surge within maybe a day or two.
Well, if you start compiling now, you just might make it.
Well, well, the thing is, Gen 2 is pretty much built. It's ready to go. All I have to do now is just install the last few things in my Part 2 live stream, like OpenBox and all that, and it'll be good to go. There's not that much left. The kernel's already been installed. Ben helped me with most of the installation. I pretty much had. We were going to do Gen kernel, but the thing is, we found it much easier and faster to manually put the kernel, make our kernel, and put it in there. And the kernel, if I remember correctly, to get the whole thing set up, I think about an hour and 30 minutes, maybe 2 hours. Didn't take too long. Because the Gen 2 virtual machine itself is running off of a SSD that's in my laptop.
Yeah, that probably helps. The last time I installed Gen 2, it was on a machine with 4 cores. It had 4-core CPU. It's kind of generic. It wasn't anything special. Had 8 gigs of RAM. Between work and real life and installing it, it took me 5 days to install the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I had it up and running with a KDE desktop. I was very patient, waiting for it to compile KDE. And then I tried to get Firefox.
Yeah.
And I put it to compile in the morning. Went to work, 8-hour shift, come back home, still compiling.
Okay.
I said, oh, okay. This is just, for me personally, I couldn't use it as my daily driver. Just because it would take too long for me to get it set up. And I know Surge says that you could get the binaries and all that, but the way I see it, that kind of defeats the purpose of Gen 2, which is to compile everything to your specific machines. And I felt like that would be how to optimize the Gen 2 experience. It's just, I don't know. I learned a lot doing it, but it's just not for me, not for my daily use.
I will say though, Endeavor OS is getting more impressive. I mean, I have Endeavor OS on this little tower over here. It has been great. I'm hoping we get more information on the online installer soon.
Yeah. I did like Endeavor. I think I gave it a good score when I put it up on YouTube, and I liked it. Like, the way I see it, when I try to grade these distributions like that, I don't look at, like, oh, how well does this fit with my workflow? I try to look at it from the perspective of, okay, how is this going to work for its targeted audience?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because every distro, like, everybody's a genius. But if you judge a fish based on how well it can climb a tree, it's always going to be an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think Albert Einstein said that, but
Yep.
I try to apply that to the Linux distros. Like, okay, maybe this doesn't fit with what I want to do, but how well is it achieving what it's trying to do?
Exactly. But I will say one thing: once that net installer releases, I already know what window manager I'm aiming for.
DWM, right?
I I've never tried that one. I hear it's okay, but I think the one that I'm going to aim for is I'm going to go back to i3.
I do like i3.
Mhm.
Have you tried out Regolith yet?
No, I haven't had a chance to look at it. I hear it's based. I hear it's i3, but it's Ubuntu.
It is. It has a lot of GNOME in it too.
Oh, it does.
It, you, it was weird. When I ran NeoFetch on it, it came up telling me the window manager is i3, but
Hmm.
it tells me the desktop environment is GNOME.
That is very strange. Hmm.
I thought the same thing, and it uses a lot of like the GNOME settings, the GNOME stuff to like tweak the system.
It's like they completely defeated the true purpose of i3, which is to be extremely minimal, by integrating most of GNOME's stuff into i3.
I mean, I guess in a way it would help. Like, let's say someone's just come into i3, they want to get into i3. Like,
Yeah.
if you're looking into getting into i3, you're not new to Linux. Let's just be frank about that. You've
Hmm.
been at it for a while, and you're saying like, okay, I want to learn something new. So it's not targeting like a brand new user,
No, it's targeting the intermediate to experienced.
right? And so like, let's say that you're just getting into, you just want to learn i3. Well, I think that Regolith will be good for you to get used to like, let's say the tiling behavior of a window manager, right? Like people aren't used to that when they first get into that. Or let's say the keyboard centric nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's my start menu?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do I launch an application? Like, oh,
Well, in my experience with i3, the best way to solve the how do I launch an application problem, install Rofi.
yeah.
I mean,
See a
oh,
Gnostic.
later, Gnostic. I mean, between everything you can put into i3 when it comes to launching applications, I mean, it's a toss up. If you want to use D menu, use D menu. If you want to use Rofi, use Rofi.
Yeah. That's the thing is like I haven't used D menu, so I can't speak for it. But
I have. I've used it. It's okay. It just takes a little while to get to the application you want.
hmm,
Unless you could type the full thing in to the D menu bar.
hmm.
The one thing I do like is how fast i3 is and how you can make the windows. The only thing about i3 for me is I've mainly operated i3 from only one computer monitor, which is in this all-in-one machine I have. I don't have a multiple monitor system.
Oh, I love it on multiple monitor system because I can just, instead of having to drag an application all the way across my 3 displays and just hit a keyboard combination, just boom, moves right over here.
And I think that's one. And I think in some ways the key bindings is where OpenBox is bad at, because iFree excels at key bindings better than OpenBox or and possibly any. Well, it's better than OpenBox because the key bindings for iFree is very easy to customize. Whereas with OpenBox, you have to put in the key binding and put in a few directories to make sure it works.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I think OpenBox is more geared towards like a minimalist, but like also
Yeah,
like a GUI. Like,
exactly.
like
I mean, the way OpenBox is set up, you can set it up to look like Windows, or you can set it up to look like Mac.
and I think the OpenBox is more geared towards like they're not as anti-mouse as some other window managers are.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's a whole bunch of new Linux projects coming around the corner. I mean, just recently I heard that Unity 8 is still in development. The Uparts team mentioned what's going on with it. So once that's completed, for the first time in several years, we'll be back to using Unity again in a new version. I mean, the thing is, when you get down to brass tacks, the longest reigning desktop environment that people were used to in the beginning of Linux was GNOME 2.
Yes.
When they switched to GNOME 3, it caused a shift in the community, and they needed a beacon of hope. They needed something they could use, and that's where Unity came in. Unity was the flagship environment for Ubuntu for so many years until Ubuntu 17.
Yeah. Um.
I mean, sure, Unity 7 is still available, but it's buggy now. Things just don't work correctly. And I think once Unity 8 is completed, it should fix every single problem that Unity 7 has.
Here's what I have to say about that. Is that if they complete Unity 8, it should be a side project. Okay.
It should.
Now, here's what I'm gonna say. Ubuntu switched to Unity.
Mm-hmm.
It was garbage when they first started it. They fixed it, made it nice.
Yep. By 11.10 to the Ubuntu 12 series, it was fabulous. I hear that around between 11 and 12 was the best experience for Unity.
11.04 was garbage. And I remember I was around back then using Linux when they updated.
Mm-hmm.
GNOME 2 was a dream. Okay, it was quick, fast, got the job done, was simple to use. Then all of a sudden they said, "No, we're gonna change it to Unity." And my system constantly broke, compies broke, everything was just garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first time I ever downgraded an operating system. Okay, it was that bad. Now, by the time 11.10 came around, it was like a night and day difference. 11.10, it was fast, it was smooth, it worked out the kinks, and I was impressed with 11.10 that they worked that stuff out so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Me and Ben did an experiment recently to see if we could get the update system for 11.10 to be brought back from the dead. We actually succeeded. If you point all the update directories to old releases.ubuntu.com/ubuntu, it 11.10 will still get updates, but only the final updates it received before it stopped before the end of life support.
Yeah, that
which
makes sense.
which is still good enough. But I was looking through the store and stuff. Everything looks so different from that time. I could not believe how different Unity was. It was stable. It worked perfectly.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm going to say about it, though, is that if Ubuntu didn't want to work on Unity anymore, okay, I get it. It was a lot of work. You want to focus that attention somewhere else. I get it. So you switch to GNOME, take a little bit of the burden off of your company,
Mm-hmm.
so you can work on other projects. I get that. Now, if Unity 8 comes out and Canonical decides, oh, guess what, we're going to switch back to Unity now, I'm going to have an issue with that. And my reason is because you can't jerk people around like that.
No, I mean, people have gotten so used to GNOME Free, and GNOME Free is starting to get good. 3.32 has fixed every single issue GNOME Free has. I consider GNOME Free to be a much better environment than it was before.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say about GNOME. Is that... Okay. Thank God that GNOME and KDE are not our only choices. Okay, I'll lead with that.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were, let's say you could only choose between GNOME and KDE, I would have to pick GNOME.
And I know exactly why you would pick GNOME, because I mean, even though KDE does look good, you have all those different settings you could get lost in.
Well, that's not my main reason. My main reason is that, like, KDE at its core, yes, it's great. It looks clean. It looks fantastic. I just logged into my KDE session a few days ago just to see what they've been up to, and it looks fantastic. But then I start using some of the settings, trying to sync my Telegram account with their instant messenger. Doesn't want to work. Try to sync my Google Drive to it. Doesn't want to work. So they got a ton of stuff sitting on their system that just doesn't work. And when I go to check out the bugs, like let's say I try to sync my Google Drive to my Google's account to KDE, it was always a hit or miss. Always. Sometimes it would work if I was lucky. Other times it would just say, no, you got an internal error 2. Okay, whatever, mystery error 2. Go to their website, check it out. The bug was filed in 2012. Still no solution in sight. Okay. Next. Bye. And then I had another issue with Kmail, their email client, because here's the thing, if I install a desktop environment, I want to get the full experience of that particular environment. That means all their default applications, I want to use it the way they intend me to use it. So I put Kmail on my system, and again, it was one of my older systems. Half the time it wouldn't start the Akanadai service or whatever, it would try and fail. The other half of the time it would launch and then take up all 8 gigs of my RAM.
Okay.
And it would freeze up my system, force me to have to do a hard reboot. And what everybody says, just use Thunderbird, just don't use Kmail. But it's like, wait a minute, what's the point of them making all these apps? It's like, I like using Qt apps with KDE because they look like they belong on the system. And I do like the aesthetics of Qt better than GTK. I do. But if I'm going to be forced to constantly fall back to GTK apps, I'm going to use a GTK-based system.
Yes.
So that everything is a little more. That in like the GNOME, like the online accounts just works. I plug in all my accounts, it just automatically works. Evolution just works. The workflow might not be for me in GNOME, but for me that's secondary to things actually working. I'll learn any workflow as long as everything works on it.
And you know, the one thing I like about GNOME is that it has one feature that other distributions that don't have GNOME are starting to implement, and that's GNOME's online account service.
Yeah. Now my favorite full desktop environment, like obviously I love my i3, It's not going anywhere. But if I had to pick a full desktop environment, I really like Cinnamon.
I mean, switch to Linux. He's an advocate of Cinnamon. That's the workflow he uses. He's used Cinnamon for years. Linux Mint Cinnamon, I think, would be make a fabulous national Linux desktop.
I think so too. And I have to say, as an Arch user, Cinnamon is a fantastic complement to Arch.
It is.
My theming is all messed up because it's Arch. It just hasn't been themed by by um by the Mint team. I just downloaded whatever random theme I could find, and boom, it looks kind of sloppish, but stability wise, it works fine.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have an issue with the settings because it runs on Python. If I get an update in Python, it breaks it. Other than that, I think like XFCE is great, but it looks old. It's very simple, and GTK3 apps look foreign on it. And I think the Cinnamon brings that perfect balance between like it looks modern, but it's also stable. Looks great, works great.
Mm-hmm. But I will say one thing about Linux that it's gotten so much better at, and that's the Linux kernel's ability to auto detect drivers.
Yes.
I mean, the kernel's ability to do that has majorly improved. I mean, now it can handle AMD Vega drivers easily. And the newest Ryzen.
And I'm sure that I'm gonna have like I had issues with like Arch, right? Like that the kernel and the Arch install doesn't automatically detect. That's the point of Arch.
Well, that's the point of Arch. You have to pretty much put in the drivers yourself.
And I'm okay with that. I know what I signed up for when I downloaded the ISO, right?
Hold on just a minute.
So like I was saying, I know what I signed up for when I got my Arch ISO.
Now, I will say one little thing about other desktop environments and other distributions. A distribution that I have actually gotten to like a lot more recently is Fedora.
Yes.
Fedora 30 is phenomenal, and Fedora 31 is releasing in a couple months.
I don't think I've given Fedora 30 a try. As far as Fedora goes, I love its philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I love what it's trying to do. My computer, on the other hand, hates it. And so I'm just like, darn it, computer. But I need some proprietary drivers like the NVIDIA. I think that Fedora just makes it a pain in the butt to get. And it's not Fedora's fault. It's not the FOSS Society's fault. It's the manufacturers. I get that. I'm putting the blame where it goes.
I mean, think about it. It took NVIDIA so many years to finally say, okay, we will release our drivers to Linux.
Yeah. Well, they had to. Because, like, here's what I'm going to say, too, is, like, when it comes to, like, older Windows games,
Mm-hmm.
like, the emulation of, like, older Windows games is actually better on Linux than it is on Windows, in many cases.
And that's because how improved Wine is starting to get. And also, those games are starting to become native on Linux, even without Wine.
Yeah. Like, a lot of the older games, like Doom or Hexen or things like that, you have things called source ports. Like, I don't think they use Wine. They just play the game,
Mm-hmm.
and they play it a lot better than if I were to try to use like backwards compatibility in Windows 10. It would just completely
Exactly.
break your system.
I mean, for Hexen 2, Hexen 2 has a native version for Linux that runs through the Hammer of Furion engine,
Yeah,
which many, many years ago finally got a Linux port.
yeah. And the way that I do it is I get the source ports, right?
Mm-hmm.
I use Steam to get the actual game files.
Yeah, I use Lutris to get the data for the source ports.
Yes, I do it with Steam though, cause like I just go.
Mm-hmm.
I paid like I think it was $10 for the whole Doom suite
Uh-huh.
for the old like Doom 1, Doom 2, the Ultimate Doom. I even
Yep.
got the Proton. What is it? No, the Plutonia Experiment and Evolution.
Mm-hmm.
I even got those two. And once I put it through GZ Doom, I could put any mods I want in it. And I do have a frame rate issue with it,
Mm.
but that's because it's trying to force 2D into 3D.
And it just can't do it because Doom 1 and 2 were never built to be 3D to begin with. They're 2D, but they're in an, I think, what they call an XY plane or something like that.
Yeah, from what I understand, they said that everything is two-dimensional in the original Doom. Um, it's just that's the genius of it, that they made it look 3D. But I heard some people say that like a more accurate term to call it would be like 2.5D. Like it's not quite 2D.
2.5, yeah, 2.5D. That may. The one thing though, with the Doom series though, is that Doom 3 finally was able to have a native Linux port, but you have to
Yes.
do it for Lutris in order to make it native.
Yes, I
It
got.
requires the Steam data plus a few things from Lutris. Boom, you have a native version on Linux.
Yes, I have Doom 3 working on Linux. I also got the BFG edition to work
Hmm.
on Linux.
Also, Quake 2 has a few many different ways of being native on Linux. There is like endless ways you can natively put Quake 2 on Linux. Quake 1, the best way to do Quake 1 is through the Dark Places engine, which is now on Linux.
And Quake 4 runs through Lutris. Don't try to run it through Proton. It broke on me when I tried to run it through Proton, but I imported all my games from Steam to Lutris,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the games that were giving me problems on Steam with Proton worked just fine through Lutris.
Yeah, and that's because with the programming languages Lutris has that comes from Linux, it's able to adapt the Steam data or wherever you get the data from, adapt it and reassemble it into a language Linux can understand, and then it's able to play the games.
yeah, I mean it doesn't work with every game.
No,
This is
but it's only a matter of time before Lutris does. It's getting close.
yeah, and
I'm.
it's been a while since I've played through the Quake storyline, so
Mm-hmm.
that made my day when that worked.
Now, when it comes to emulation of other consoles, RetroArch is still the best thing to do for
Yes.
Linux because even though there are native emulators inside the Linux store, RetroArch is still the best way because RetroArch is getting new emulators all the time.
Yes, and I've been learning RetroArch. I downloaded a what was it? I downloaded a couple games just to see how it would work. I tried this game called Mega Man Star Force.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the touch screen could use a little work in the emulation, but that's to be
Yeah.
expected as it's a touch
Yep.
screen trying to emulate on a mouse.
Hold on just a minute.
Honestly, with a DS emulator, I wasn't sure what I was expecting, honestly. But I really probably should invest in a remote, like an N64 controller or something, just for some games like that. What I love about RetroArch is it's seeming to that it's going to give me the ability to relive my childhood of games, basically. I remember as a kid with my N64. What was the other game that I got? I think it was Mario Brothers. It took me a while to figure out how to get the cores working. See if I can. So like I don't know if I got this whole thing figured out, but from what I could tell on it, it is pretty sick. And let me see. I know that I. Pretty sure I stuck that in my random folder. ROMs. Oh, it was Donkey Kong Country that I got. That was the other one. So that means I gotta load up. That means I've gotta load up a Super NES. And I'll be careful how much I show about this because I know how Nintendo can be. But yeah, it wouldn't be too difficult to build like a Raspberry Pi to play that stuff. Like those old games didn't require that much power. Hope everything's alright with Ricky. I bet they're showing that little clip from Donkey Kong Country. That's gonna get this video flagged. Because Nintendo. I guarantee you that little bit didn't cost you any sales, buddy. There's nobody sitting on the fence like, do I want to buy Donkey Kong Country? I don't know. Yeah, I do use the source ports for certain things. Um, I mean, I guess they'll never recreate um, like taking the cartridge. You gotta blow on it for it to work and then pop it in. You know, sliding the switch up, click. I really hope that I can get an N64 emulator for that. That would be amazing. '64 was where it was at back then. Donkey Kong 64 was my game. I like Banjo-Tooie. This is 10-year-old me talking now. GoldenEye was pretty slick too. I played a lot of PlayStation 2 too. I like the Jack and Daxter series, Jack 1, Jack 2, Jack 3. Sly Cooper was another one I played. Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. It seems that to me like the more advanced the storylines got,
Okay, that should be resolved.
well, Ricky, you missed it. I might have just gotten my whole video flagged.
What happened?
I went to RetroArch. I let it play the intro of Donkey Kong Country. So I might have Nintendo.
Oh no!
So I might have incurred the wrath of Nintendo. I guess we'll find out soon enough.
Well, if you have editing software, just remove that part.
Yeah.
Okay, I think while I'm here with you, I might as well, since VirtualBox works decently well on this system, I might as well prep a new virtual machine. Okay, let's just do. Okay. Ooh. Okay, let's just do. Uh, there we go. I want to give it. Okay, let's give it that much. Okay. 30 gigabytes. Okay. Go to. There we go. Now to set it up. Where's my. There it is. Now I can just do this. Then it. Okay, perfect. Okay, do that. Do that. Let's do that. Nah. We'll enable 2D instead. There we go. Get my ISO image. And there we go. The virtual machine's all ready to go. You wanna see? You wanna see me run this, Ben?
Sure. Let me. Uh,
Uh, I'll share my screen. There we go. All right.
oh, Linux Mint 7.
Okay.
That might still be supported.
I highly doubt it.
Well, I say that jokingly, but because
I
Linux Mint
know.
seems to support their versions for like ever and ever and ever and ever.
Exactly. Okay. Now it's just gonna take about a minute. I don't know if the thing will all the way load. Well, it's loading. And if you guys don't know, this is Linux Mint 7 XFCE edition. Okay. Uh huh.
Uh oh.
I don't know what it's doing, but it should do something.
So,
Oh! Okay. There it is. Okay, let's take a look around. Okay. Well, this is it, man. This is what Linux Mint Cinnamon looked like over a decade ago.
huh.
This is I need to look and see what version of XFCE this is, which I don't even know if it will tell me.
Sorry about that, guys. Uh,
Okay, nah, no, it's not. Oh well, that's okay. So basically, workspace switcher, the same old timer thing. There's right here. I believe this is the first version of Pulse Audio. Oh, yeah. No, this is the first version of ULSA. Okay.
hmm.
So basically, I can just basically with the mouse wheel is how you can control the audio. The the mouse wheel clicker is what mutes it. Right over here, there's the Ethernet. This is all these applications here. Let's take a look at the welcome screen. See what that looks like. Oh wow, this okay. Wouldn't you agree, Ben, that this is a very fancy welcome screen?
Yeah.
That is pretty simplistic. I like this. Okay, so this is Linux Mint 7 Gloria. Um, so this is really nice. What else do we got here? I can create a template. There's the application. So let's see let's see what the terminal looks like. There's a little animal on the screen.
Oh, looks like.
It's a little Christmas Carol type. I like this. This is good. Okay, let's do. Let's see what our kernel is. So uname r 2.6.28-11 generic. Okay, so this is Linux kernel number 2. Okay, all right. So this thing may not be able to update, but let's just try something here. So what I want to do next is very simple but yet effective. I want to see the file manager of this thing. So let's go to the home, see what our file manager looks like. Let's see, what is it? Okay, so it's the Funar 1.0.0. Okay, so this is a good implementation of it. I don't need to go over Funar since most of you guys have seen it many times.
Wait, so is that running GNOME 2 or is that XFCE?
This is XFCE.
Oh.
About XFCE, this is XFCE 4, but it doesn't say what 4.6.0. Okay, so this is 4.6.0. Has a few licenses there.
Well, XFCE hasn't changed that much.
Not yet. Let's look at OpenOffice. So let's see how this does. Okay, so OpenOffice, this is pretty standard. Let's just see how my typing looks. Okay, that doesn't look bad. I mean, the wording is good. I can change the fonts. There's a whole bunch of fonts that I could choose from. Let's change this to the Deja Vu Sans. There's Deja Vu's Metro. So that's not bad. That is not too bad. Let's discard. Okay, we looked at Office. Let's look at Network. Okay, so there's your transmission, your XChat. You got your Java 6 Web Start Kit.
It's using the WCD Network Manager.
You also got, let's take a look at Firefox. Okay, it should only take a few seconds. Okay, so it doesn't load. That's fine. That's okay. Let's look at the Linux Mint website. And it doesn't do anything. That's okay. Alright, so that's Firefox in a nutshell. Okay, let's open up GIMP. GIMP 2.6. Okay, what is this thing gonna look like? Come on. I know you can load up. Okay, this looks very similar to 2.10 almost. So basically, we could just put images here, do all that stuff. Looks really nice. So
looks closer to 2.8 to me.
Yeah, it looks a lot closer to 2.8.
Because 2.10 is all one window, and it looks like 2.8 Like you had the paints over here, one window. You had
Uh huh.
the other thing in this window over in the image in another window. It's like,
Let's
whoa.
see. Next thing I want to look at is the media section. Let's take a look at let's try Gnome Emplayer. Okay, that seems pretty simplistic. Very nice. Has a little thing. You can adjust your volume, which is really nice. So if I wanted to, I could go full volume, which is really good. Let's also take a look at a few other things in the internet section too. Let's look at Thunderbird, which is a web client that I use. Okay, don't import anything. All right, let's see how this does. Oh, this looks interesting. Um, Not now. I just want to look at the. Yeah, exit. Okay, so this is what version of Thunderbird are we dealing with here? Thunderbird 2.0.0.22. Okay, so this was in 2009. Okay, this seems pretty standard. So you got your Get Mail, calendar, all the shebang. Um, Anything else? Okay, there's Pigeon. We could try Pigeon. Okay, so Pigeon. Welcome to Pigeon. Da 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 da. Okay, what services does Pigeon offer? Okay, AIM, Bonjour, Gadu Gadu, Google Talk, GroupWise, ICQ, RIC, IRC, MySpace IM, MSN, QQ, Select, Simple, Sometime, XMPP, Yahoo, and Zephyr. Okay, this is some really nice service selection. What's the advanced options look like? Okay, yep, that's where you can add in a server. That's really nice.
Interesting fun fact about Pigeon. It's probably one of the only IM clients that will still, to this day, support Facebook.
Yep. Well, if you wanted to support Facebook.
It won't do it through Jabber. It's got a different thing you got to install to get it to work, but it still works.
Okay, now let's look at transmission. Okay, that seems pretty simple. You just drop in a torrent and just let her go. What version are we dealing with, though? That's what I want to know. Okay, 1.51. Okay, and the license. Okay, so the license is the GPL. Okay. Okay, this seems pretty interesting. So far, everything is here, but does it have a software center as of yet? I don't think it. No, it does not. That's okay. That's fine. I don't think this. I don't even think it got a store until a few years later. But we do have the Synaptic Package Manager. So the package manager is here. So let's see. Let's just see what is here. So we go here, go to search. I'll just type. What would you say would be a good thing to search up?
Mm,
Something that was around in 2009 that is still around now.
that's a good question.
I think I have an idea. Let's try GUVC view. No. Okay, I had a feeling it was not around at this time. That I had a feeling. Okay. Let's try GNOME. Yes. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, so there's apt install data. But I'm looking for GNOME. Let's just there we go. So now we can look for GNOME. See if anything is here.
My, we have come a long way, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. Okay, so here's some of the GNOME files. So at least I know. Okay, GNOME panel. That's 1.2, 1.2.2. Okay, so that's there. There's the voice control. Okay, Thunderbird GNOME support. Okay, so that's there. So yeah, GNOME is in the system. So now comes the question. Can we install something? So now let's do sudo apt install. I'll just say, let's try LeafPad.
How many IBM 3? Oh,
Oh, failed to fetch. Oh, that's right. Okay, it's the same thing that me and Ben tried to do. Okay, okay. So it failed to fetch it. That's okay. So that's a real easy fix. Very easy fix. But I
that's
can fix
because
that
the
later.
yeah, that's because the repos are down.
Yeah, but if I redirect it to the old releases site, we'll be able to do something. Okay, now let's see what else do I need to look. Well, we haven't looked at the graphical settings yet. Let's look at the XFCE settings. Okay, this seems pretty simplistic. I mean, you have all your settings here to change it as much as you want. Let's go to our file manager settings. Okay. All right. So this seems pretty good. Pretty good. There's the desktop. Okay, can we change the wallpaper? Yes. Okay, now this is a very interesting wallpaper changer. This is interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, what does the wallpaper look like now? Oh, that is so cool. That's a wallpaper, and it matches everything. That is amazing. That is amazing.
I gotta
All
be
right.
honest. Back in 2000, I think it was
To
2010 when I first started with Linux. XFCE wasn't for me back then. I tried
uh,
Ubuntu because
okay, let's see. What's this wallpaper? Okay, that one's interesting. Okay. Any more? Okay, this is the normal Linux Mint wallpaper. Okay, now that is a really that's simple. That's extremely simple. Okay. Uh okay. What about XFCE? What does you look like? Okay, that's interesting too. All right, so that's wallpaper. So overall thoughts, Benjamin. What do you think of Linux Mint 7?
I think it looks like it was great back in its day
Uh huh.
when back when it was relevant. I gotta be honest. I was more into Ubuntu when I started using Linux.
Mm
Um, GNOME 2 really wasn't that resource heavy, so I never had a reason to switch.
hmm. Mm hmm.
Um, I tried Ubuntu though, because back then I was an idiot and I was playing with this stuff and I wanted to like mess around with it and I partitioned my disk 4 times with 4 different flavors of Ubuntu. I didn't I didn't get the concept of a desktop environment, things like that.
Yeah.
I have to say this, XFC wasn't my cup of tea back then. I found it a little plain, a little bland, so I
Uh huh.
stuck with GNOME 2. But it looks like Linux Mint really polished it.
Yeah, it's definitely polished for the average Windows user who is just transitioning to Linux from a Windows environment.
I must say
But
they've still continued their their um their legacy to this day. I think
uh huh, and I will say, when it comes to Linux and Windows, I say if you need something that's as close to Windows as possible, check out the Cinnamon desktop environment. That is an amazing environment.
Oh, but wait till you see what I got running here. Yeah. Uh, this, this brand new operating system here.
Let me guess. Regolith?
Uh, Not really. Oh, wait. I should probably. I got it sharing on the YouTube video.
Yeah, I think I. There we go. Okay, I've stopped sharing.
Well, I've got it sharing through OBS, so it's going through YouTube, but not through Jitsi right now.
Oh, okay. So, what type of system are you testing?
Well, it it doesn't seem like it has a lot of functionalities. When I booted it up, it just says C colon slash arrow. There's a lot of backslashes. I think the system is thinking backwards. Um, if I type in dir, it gives me a list of directories.
I know what you're doing. That's DOS.
It is DOS.
Is it MS DOS or PC DOS?
It's MS-DOS 6.22.
That is amazing. Have you ever thought of trying FreeDOS?
I haven't looked into it. No.
FreeDOS is still being worked on, and it's still available, and it still works. The only thing about FreeDOS is it allows you to use up-to-date modern drivers and stuff.
I have
Yeah.
here total memory 600. Oh, wait a minute. I think I got 1 megabyte of memory. Whopping 1 meg. I've got 65,151K of RAM. Can you imagine having that back in those days?
Lord help me.
This would be a freaking monster back then.
Yep, it would be a monster.
Well, but I could take it a step further. Because I do have another interesting virtual machine here. And this one acts a lot. See if I might have gotten that wrong. This one here acts a lot like Linux, but it's not Linux. It's just a command line. See, maybe I can't remember what I put for a password for this machine, so.
Oh, that's okay.
It's actually AT&T Unix.
Oh, that's nice.
Release 4.0, version 2.1.
Uh-huh.
And I haven't figured out really how to use it that much, but.
Alright. Well, anyway, dude, I gotta get going. Somebody's been trying to get a hold of me.
Alright. I'm probably going to end this soon anyway.
Alright, later.
Alright. Oh, STS Tech. Mark, when I started the stream, it crashed. It went down, and I started a new one. But when I started the stream, I was apologizing to the Regolith team because yesterday when I was doing my recording with Regolith, I was having some Wi-Fi issues that turned out to be an issue with my card not agreeing with the router. and I thought that it was an issue with Regolith, and I was a little harsh on it. So I just came on here to issue an apology to that end, because it was my bad. It was working just fine like a day ago on Endeavor. So of course I install a new distro. All of a sudden it doesn't work. Obviously I'm gonna assume it's the new distro that's messing up. But it turned out that it was an issue with the band frequencies. The network card on my distro testing machine can only handle 2.4 gigahertz. And my router does both 5 and 2.4. So, and both frequencies are the same name, and so that was causing some confusion with my laptop's internal network card. And I'm not sure why it just became an issue right now, and not last week or when I was running Endeavor. But it's an issue now, and after doing loads of little bit of research on it, I found out that that was the actual issue. And so I just decided to apologize to the Regolith team, because it turns out it wasn't their fault at all. So on my ThinkPad here, it works just fine. It automatically goes for the 5 gigahertz. 5.7 is this but like the other one, the internal one, doesn't work on 5, so it's just confused the whole thing, and it doesn't want to connect to any networks. I solved the problem by putting it's like a temporary workaround. I put a external USB network card to it, and that worked just fine, because that got it on the 5 gigahertz. So it's just little things like that sometimes. Just yeah, my router does both. It does both 2.4 gigahertz and 5. I think it's 5.7 gigahertz. The issue is that this particular laptop, the internal wireless card doesn't do 5. It only does 4, or 2.4. Sorry. And so that was the issue, is that the wireless card on the laptop doesn't support 5. Came to find out that the 5 gigahertz and the 2 gigahertz are two separate networks, but they have the same name on my on the router. So that's what was causing the confusion. And so I'm still going to use the machine to test out distributions, just now I can't use the internal network card. It kind of sucks, but still works for that. Thank God for this ThinkPad, that's not my main machine anymore. I mean, it doesn't seem to cause an issue with my main machine, my ThinkPad here. This one has a lot more frequencies it can attach to. It can drop to 2.4 if that's what the router is, but it also does 5.7. And it has, I think, 32 channels altogether when I ran the check on that. The other one, I believe it had like 12 or so. Not that much. Didn't have that much, and they were all within the 2.4 range. So, I mean, it's whatever. I'm thinking maybe Comcast updated something on the router that caused the issue to just all of a sudden pop up. But I checked the logs, and there's nothing that says, "Oh, we updated yesterday. How this happened?" There's nothing really there that to clarify what happened. So I'm left here guessing. And the main thing is that I have a solution in mind, is to change the name of the 2.4 gigahertz frequency of that network, and so that eliminates the conflict. Um, the issue with that, though, and the reason I'm not going to do that just yet, is because um, that will solve the problem here, but it would not solve the problem on other networks that I don't have control over the router. So I'm looking for a more universal solution that would solve the issue on any network that this laptop would find itself on. Not for myself, because, you know, obviously it's not my main machine and this one doesn't have that issue, but for those that might have a older network card like that might be having the same issue, I am looking to find a solution to it. I haven't used Windows in years. I've been on pure Linux for, let's see, I started getting back into computers about 5 years ago. Yeah. What I would like to do is make it more of a local solution to the laptop itself, and say, like, force the laptop itself to only look for 2.4 gigahertz. Because that's where the issue is, right? Because I can change the router settings here because it's my router. I can get on it. But let's say I go and sit down at, let's say, McDonald's or Panera or something with the public Wi-Fi access, and it has the same conflict. Um, what's going to happen? I can't access um, the router on those. So um, yeah, that's the thing, is that, like, I'm not planning on bringing this laptop anywhere really. But it's just one of those things where it's like, what if someone else has this issue and that's their only laptop? Well, I'm trying to work out a solution that'll make it work for that. It could just be that 2.4 is, like, for better or worse, going out of style, being phased out. And so it could be that they're trying to get rid of it. And that's why it's all of a sudden causing issues. I mean, who knows? Who knows? If it is, and that's an issue, because this laptop, the laptop over here isn't that old, really. So that means that people could spend money on this thing. All of a sudden, it becomes obsolete. Come on. And it's a decent laptop. It's got a quad-core CPU. It's got 8 gigs of RAM in it, and it's very decent. So, I mean, I'd be pretty pissed if it goes obsolete just because of the wireless card inside of it. Yeah, I believe it. And I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with speed, really, because I think that the 5 versus 2.4 are just different frequencies. It's not so much that one's faster than the other. I mean, unless you want to make the argument that there's less devices using it, so there's less, congestion. Hmm. Yeah, I'll have to look at that really. Next time I hop on the Wi-Fi from outside to see if it hits the 2.4 instead of the 5, because that'll be interesting to check that out. Anyway, I'm thinking I'm gonna hop off here in a few. Yeah, maybe they're gonna keep it around for long range, but like the whole thing is that like maybe they should be like the router should be able to detect like, okay, this card can only do 2.4, so 5 isn't an option. Whether it's better or worse, whatever, 5 isn't an option for this card, so we're gonna give it the the 2.4 frequency. But it's interesting that you bring that range issue up, because I have noticed that this newer router, it's faster, but I have noticed that the signal is a little bit weaker. And I do realize I'm in a basement and the TV's upstairs, and if I'm outside, I do realize that there's a long distance. But the older router that we had um, worked. It wasn't as fast, but its range was like I can get a decent connection from outside on the deck. And so, like maybe that's it. Is searching for the 5G, searching for the 5G, the 5 gigahertz, and that's what it's attaching to. Because so from what I read when I looked this up, um, and so when I looked this up, it turns out that the wireless cards are always looking for the higher frequency, and so it's always gonna go for the 5. It's always gonna go for the 5 if it can. And from what I understand, that's what's happening with this laptop too. Even though it can't do the 5, it's looking for the 5 for some odd reason, and that's causing some issues. And so, like, I mean, if it can't do 5, it shouldn't be looking for 5, but it is looking for 5. I mean, but yeah, um, that's it. I apologize to Regolith. I mean, and that's what really happened. Yeah. There's, um, hmm. Yeah, I've noticed that. But you know what? When I go outside, that's what this thing is for, right? That's what this thing was meant for. Was for when I go outside, this thing gives me a longer range, stronger connection than any internal card does. And so that's what this was for. So I could bring it outside with me and still have a decent internet connection. Um, Now obviously it's been repurposed for an aging laptop. And but what's interesting is that this ThinkPad that I'm on right now is actually older than that machine. Yeah, that's the thing. Gotta admit when I'm wrong. When I make a boo boo, when I make a oopsie, it's like, yep. Well, so like my revised review on Regolith is more positive. Obviously, like I think it reaches its target audience perfectly. Um, target audience. You know, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody, but the specific audience that it's trying to reach, I think it's perfect for it because it brings a lot of the things from GNOME that people are used to, and so they can easily change the settings and stuff if they need to. And it tiles. It helps people get used to like the workflow of like i3. And so I think it does a good job of that. Like, is it my cup of tea? No, I prefer my and as you can tell, I do like i3. I run it, but as far as Regolith goes, it's not the way that I would set up my i3. Um, I think if you want to get dive a little deeper into i3, I would say maybe give the Manjaro i3 Community Edition a shot, because that one too is pretty good at like introducing you to the workflow. Like both Regolith and the Manjaro i3 pops up with a conky that gives you the keyboard shortcuts. Right, that's another thing people need to get used to is it's all keyboard centric. People aren't used to that. First time you log into i3, be like, "Where's my start menu? Where's it? Where?" It's like, well, it's a different workflow. It's gonna take some getting used to. Yeah, yeah. Look into it. Um, it seems pretty slick. It's got um, it's i3 Window Manager with GNOME as the desktop environment. So be prepared for some. Like it doesn't seem like they're clashing, but it seems like they're conjoined at the hip. But anyway, with that, I'm gonna hop off myself too. So I'll see you guys maybe later on tonight if I have some time. Maybe I'll jump on someone else's stream. Have a great day, guys. Bye bye.